Dov Khenin, you used to be a member of parliament at the Knesset in Israel for the confederation, I would say, of Chadasch. And I think under the roof of Chadasch, there were communists, Palestinians, Democrats, Jewish people. But in the last election, you ran for another list. Why?
Well, it's a bit complicated. Chadasch is a broad movement of left-wing Jews and Arabs that has a political program of peace, Israeli-Palestinian peace, opposing occupation, fighting for social justice, democracy, equality inside Israel, and so on. Before the last elections, Israeli right-wing government initiated an increase of the electoral threshold. That is the number of votes needed in order to enter parliament, to enter the Knesset. We had 4 members of Knesset, and the electoral threshold was raised just above that. So we were facing a risk of being, totally without political representation. This move of the right wing was intended to block us from entering the Knesset. It was intended also to block out of the Knesset all groups and parties representing the Arabic minority. Without us and without the groups representing Arabic minority, right-wing forces have permanent majority in Israeli political arena. Therefore, we faced a risk of not being able to pass the electoral threshold, and we had to maneuver. What we decided to do is to create a joint list of us, Chadash, a left-wing socialist Jewish Arab movement, with 2 other political movements. One of them is an Arab-Palestinian movement of Arab Israelis, and a second one is a moderate Islamist movement. These 3 forces joined forces in what we call the joint list. The joint list succeeded in getting 13 members of Knesset, which is more than 10%. We are the 3rd faction in Israeli parliament, and we, Chadash, are part of this joint list. We have 5 members of Knesset now, and one of our colleagues is the chairman of the joint list. So, in this maneuver, we succeeded to keep ourselves alive parliamentary. Another success was in mobilizing the Arabic minority to vote, which was important because the Arabic minority is important force in the general struggle for peace, democracy, and equality in Israel. We succeeded in aligning the Arabic minority around our political strategy, which used to be and still is to tell the Arabs in Israel, you should be involved in Israeli politics. You should put your force on the Israeli arena, on the side of progress, of peace, equality, social justice. We always said that the Arabic minority, because of its objective situation, has the potential to be a democratic force in Israeli political arena. So in the joint list, we succeeded to have our own line become the hegemonic line in the Arabic minority, to overcome isolationist tendencies existing in the Arabic minority in Israel. This is the positive side of the joint list. But there is also a negative side, because Israel is very much divided according to national lines. When you create a joint list based on mostly Arabic forces, you weaken your abilities to speak to the Jewish population. Now, of course, there can be no change in Israel without the Arabic minority, which is a very, very important part of Israeli society. They are 20% of Israelis. But the Arabic minority by itself is not enough to make a change. You have to mobilize also a big part of the Jewish population. And in this respect, the joint list made our situation much more complicated than before.
And could the joint list be an impulse for a better cooperation of the democratic forces, Israeli and Arabic ones, for more common projects on the ground?
We would like it to be. We always said that the joint list for us is the first step to create a wider democratic, force or movement in Israeli arena. But it is not very simple to do it, because we are a movement of joint Jewish-Arab struggle, but not all forces in the joint list share our values. For example, the Palestinian nationalists that are part of our joint list now, they, accept the principle of our political program, but they don't share the importance of creating a joint Jewish-Arab struggle. The Muslim forces that are part of the joint list are pragmatic and moderate by comparison to other Muslim forces. But still, they are Muslim, traditional, very conservative, not open to all issues of left-wing agenda. So it's not very simple to combine them with our vision of left-wing politics.
But maybe your common enemy or your common contrahand, unites you more. Talking about the Netanyahu government, is it just one of the right-wing governments Israel had during the last years?
Well, let me begin with saying that Israel did have a lot of right-wing governments. But unfortunately, the government we have now, is more dangerous than the ones we had before. It is more dangerous on the regional arena. It has, a strategy of conflict. It is looking with a lot of pleasure on the tragedy happening in Syria. They always say, we are wishing luck to both sides in Syria. They are very happy that this internal war is going on in Syria, and this way it neutralizes Syria as a state. And they very much oppose the agreement reached between the United States administration and Iran. They were wishing to have totally different way of dealing with the Iranian issue. And they are very, very extremist on the Palestinian issues. Netanyahu is able to speak about two-state solution, but it really doesn't mean it. What he means can be seen on the ground in the large amount of monies that his government is spending on settlements in the Arabic Palestinian occupied territory. These settlements are being built there in order to prevent any chance of a future independent Palestinian state that should be created alongside Israel. So this is very, very dangerous government if you speak about the regional aspects. It is very bad government if you look upon the social and economic issues. Very right-wing, Thatcherite, ultra-capitalist, privatizations and everything. Israel is at the moment second on the list of OECD members on the rate of poverty. Israel is very, very high on inequality index. It used to be relatively equal society 30 or 40 years ago, but now it's very, very unequal society. A lot of social tensions and social problems existing in Israel. And because the government cannot really bring solutions to the social and economic issues, because it cannot really give solutions to the issues of security. You know, they always speak about their idea of not solving the conflict, because they say it's not possible to solve the conflict. The only way is to manage the conflict. Now, managing the conflict, you see the streets of Tel Aviv, you know, people are being murdered, or in Jerusalem, or in other cities. So the whole concept of managing the conflict is collapsing. So when they do not have solutions for social issues, when they do not have solutions for security issues, they face the criticism existing in Israeli society with repression. And that is the third issue, very, very dangerous in this government. They are attack on democratic space. You know, in Israel we didn't have a very big democratic space, but still we had some democratic space existing, and in recent months there is a savage attack on democratic space, on left-wing organizations, peace movements, academy, artists, writers, whoever is speaking against the current government is, you know, claimed to be a traitor, an enemy of the people, and a lot of repression is being made against all the forces of progress in Israel.
But who's supporting this kind of policy? I mean, the average people, their life is complicated too. Who is supporting Netanyahu? Why is he so strong?
Netanyahu is strong because most Israelis do not believe that there is an alternative. Netanyahu says now to the Israelis, look what is happening in Syria. Look what is happening in Iraq. The situation around us is that we are surrounded by crazy people, you know, dangerous people. Look on what ISIS is doing. That is the danger. And we should be very strong, otherwise they will slaughter us. People are afraid. People open their TVs and see horrible pictures, real horrible pictures. Netanyahu do not have to invent them. They are real pictures. From Syria, from Iraq, from Lebanon, from all around the Arabic arena. And he says the only option to stay alive is to keep to your guns, be very strong, and have very high walls around you. And this is something that persuades Israeli people. And unfortunately, Labour Party, when it ruled Israel back in 2000 and had negotiations with Arafat at Camp David, their leader came back to Israel and said, well, I offered him everything and he was not willing to accept. There is no partner for peace. And if the leader of the moderates admits that there is no partner for peace, and most Israelis accept there is no partner for peace, and we should fight.
I remember that in Israel you had quite an impressive peace movement for a couple of years, and during the last years you even had social protests. What can we do in Europe and in Germany especially to support you or to accompany you in your struggle?
You raised two very important examples of the possibilities existing within Israeli society. And it is very, very important to understand that although Israeli government is very, very dangerous and bad, Israeli society is very complicated. And there are dangers existing in Israeli society, but also possibilities and potentials. And the fact we had a vast peace movement, the fact we had a huge social protest in 2011, there were 1 million Israelis in the street, which is 1 out of 8 Israelis were demonstrating for social justice and against the government. That is a mark of the potentials existing. There is a struggle going on in Israel. And what we would like you to do is to support us in this struggle, to be very critical and sharp in your criticism and your opposition to Netanyahu's government, to be very sharp in your opposition to occupation policy, and at the very same time keep your solidarity with us, the progressive forces in Israel. To keep all Israelis in one camp, this is a big mistake. There are progressive Israelis that you should support. There are reactionary Israelis that you should oppose. There is the government of Netanyahu that is a danger not only to the Palestinians but also to the future of Israel. And there are the Israelis who are refusing to serve in the occupied territories and going to prison. So this division is very, very important. Solidarity with the progressives and very sharp opposition to the government.
But last question. The mood or the mainstream in Germany has a little bit changed during the last years. It's when you are criticizing Netanyahu, you are brandmarked as anti-Semitism. And the frame of this word is even getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Even criticizing the financial system, you easily be called an anti-Semitist. Do you see that?
Well, I heard about it, and it's a very, very frustrating phenomenon. Because, as I see it, if you really care for the future of the people in Israel, you should oppose Netanyahu. Netanyahu is taking my people to disaster, This is the truth. So, if you struggle for Israeli-Palestinian peace, you struggle for justice for the Palestinians, of course, but you struggle also for the very future of the Israelis. Because with this policy of Netanyahu, we are facing total war in the Middle East. And with this total war, there will be no future for us also. I see myself not only as an internationalist who cares for the Palestinians, I see myself as a true Israeli patriot. I care for my people, I care for my children, I care for my friends. I love my country. And I'm very, very much afraid of what Netanyahu is doing, of where he's trying to take all of us. Therefore, I ask my German friends, love Israel, love the future of Israel, and oppose Netanyahu very sharply. This is the same thing, to love Israel and to oppose Netanyahu.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.